What's up, Kryptonians? Welcome back to the Superfan Show. Today, I'm going to be counting down the rest of my Hall of Justice. That's right, this is part 2, where I talk about my top 10 favorite comic book / superhero films of all time. If you guys haven't seen part 1 of my Hall of Justice, it's on my channel. I'll drop a link in the description below, just in case you didn't get to see my 20 through 11. This one right here, this is top 10. This is for the best of the best. This is the creme de la creme, the piece de resistance of my comic book superhero movie life. Like I said, it's all subjective, and everybody's going to have different lists, and if you have an issue with something on the list, you should list that in the comment section below. I want to hear what you guys' lists are. Got the Superman cape, so I'm good to go, so let's get into this list. Let's start it off with number 10. Trust me, I have no disillusions about the issues and the flaws that this film has. It's not my favorite Marvel film. Hell, it's not even my favorite film that came out this year. It has some issues that didn't get better upon rewatch, but I did see this movie 6 times. Doesn't that tell you how much I loved Avengers Infinity War? Avengers Infinity War was a huge-ass event that was 10 years in the making, and for the most part, I think it lived up to what it needed to live up to. The scope and the scale and the size of this movie and the cast and the action sequences are bigger, larger than life, bigger than anything you've seen before in the Marvel Universe. Thanos, while they did change his motivations from the comics, I thought worked brilliantly for what this movie needed him to be. It's one of the few comic book films where the villain actually gets to end the movie and walk off screen and be like, yeah, I actually did that. I won. I beat the heroes. Everything that happened in this movie makes me even more excited to see Avengers 4, which comes out next year. Number 9, we have a Marvel film that, funnily enough, came out just a couple of months before Infinity War dropped, and I, of course, am talking about Black Panther. Black Panther, as a black man, just touched me, man. It touched me emotionally in levels that I haven't had a lot of comic book movies touch me that way in a while, and I should probably stop saying touch me like that because it sounds weird. But what's not weird is my love for Black Panther. I love the culture of Wakanda. I love the performances. I love the villain. Michael B. Jordan killed it as Killmonger. T'Challa played brilliantly by Chadwick Boseman. The movie does have some fun action scenes, although the CGI is some of the worst that I've seen in a big budget Marvel movie. Some of the social commentary and some of the issues that the movie was speaking about that spoke to me as a black person, I can't leave it off my list because of that. And as a film, I feel like it's one of the best the MCU has had to offer, and it is my number 9 film on my list.
And where down we go, go, go.
Number 8, you gotta pull out your tissues because we're saying goodbye to a legend. And I, of course, am talking about Logan, the farewell swan song for Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and Patrick Stewart as Professor Xavier. This is a film that is pretty much all about emotion. It wraps up Wolverine's storyline in such a beautifully tragic way. The film is also more bloody and more violent than any Wolverine movie that we've ever seen before, which was a very welcome change for fans who have been begging for a rated R Wolverine movie for years. There are some issues in the third act that I have, and some of the pacing does drag at times, but I can't deny that as an emotional experience in cinema, Logan did a lot for me, and it is one of those Fox films that I'm always going to remember for as long as I live. It comes in at number 8. Number 7, we have my favorite film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe thus far. I saw it back in 2014. Nothing has topped it so far, and I, of course, am talking about Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Captain America: The Winter Soldier is not just the best Captain America movie for me, it is one of the greatest comic book films ever because it actually takes the story of Captain America, puts him in modern day, and it treats it seriously. One of those Marvel films that doesn't feel like other Marvel films. It feels kind of like a spy thriller and a political thriller wrapped up in superhero wrapping. This cemented Chris Evans as the best badass to ever put on that shield and ever wear that uniform. Black Widow was great. The movie has tremendous action sequences and fight choreography, some of the best the MCU has had since then. I've waited all these years to see a film that surpassed this movie in terms of pure quality, and I haven't found it yet. So as of right now, it is my number 1 favorite film in the MCU, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Number 6, we have a movie that, if we're being honest, needed to be good. Like, it really, really needed to be good. Talking about Wonder Woman. And it needed to be good because we had a lot of other female superhero films that hadn't really worked out that well in the past. Culturally, this movie struck a chord with a lot of people. It is a very well done movie. Patty Jenkins did such a great job directing this film. It's got a great score. It's got badass, stylized action sequences. Gal Gadot and Chris Pine killed it in their roles more than I even imagined they could. It's a war film that happens to have a superhero in it. It actually does focus a little bit on the realities and the complexities of war and how it affects people. But more importantly, I look at Wonder Woman as one of those films, kind of like how people looked at Superman the movie when it came out. People were inspired by Christopher Reeve and his iconic portrayal of Superman, and that movie helped spawn a new generation of comic book films. In the same way that Wonder Woman is going to inspire a lot of little girls who are going to grow up and they're going to see Gal Gadot as their Wonder Woman, and they're going to feel inspired because now we're going to get a whole bunch of new badass female superhero movies. I just can't deny the impact of Wonder Woman, and that's why it is number 6 on my list. Number 5, we have my favorite Fox Marvel movie that they have ever come out with, X-Men Days of Future Past. A film that takes place in the new X-Men trilogy, but it also does bridge the gap between the older X-Men trilogy and the new one. It also bridges together two different generations of fans and actors who have played these characters. You have the old crew, and you have the new crew, and you have a movie that tries to fix some of the continuity issues that have popped up along the way. This film has everything that you would want in an X-Men movie. It has great emotion. It has a lot of great themes and ideas and messages that we have seen from the other X-Men movies carried over. Once again, James McAvoy slays it as Professor Xavier. Same thing for Michael Fassbender as Magneto. This movie has some of the most jaw-dropping, huge-ass sequences of any Fox Marvel movie they've ever come out with. And come on, guys. Magneto picking up that entire stadium, how can you not say that's not iconic? There's a road cut of this film that makes the movie even better in my eyes, but even without the road cut, this movie would still be top 5. Number 4, we have possibly the most influential comic book film that's ever been made. Batman. Or at least Batman with no hockey pads. I'm talking about The Dark Knight, obviously. It's The Dark Knight. I don't care if we get to a day where cinema, is no longer a big thing. You're always going to remember The Dark Knight. And you're always going to remember Heath Ledger and his iconic portrayal of the Joker. We had never seen the Joker brought to life quite this way before. Rest in peace to Heath Ledger. He went out a legend. He went out on top. He's the only actor, I think, in a comic book film to win an Oscar posthumously. But from a directing and acting standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, from everything that you would expect to see in a Batman movie, the psychological energy that crackles every time Batman is in the scene with the Joker, the movie just had everything. It had everything. It had everything that I wanted. No, it's not the most comic book accurate versions of Joker and Batman, but I'm pretty sure Christopher Nolan told you when he started this that that wasn't the point. And number 3, give me the best Spider-Man film that's ever been made, in my humble opinion. That is Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 doesn't even always feel like a superhero movie. It feels kind of like a really emotional drama that happens to have a superhero in it. This film takes everything that you really liked about Spider-Man and it just fleshes the characters out even more. Every character in this film has something that is driving them, something that is pushing them. The movie also really holds up well today in terms of special effects and action sequences. The train sequence with Doc Ock, who's not going to remember that forever? You can watch that shit right now in 2018 and you'd be like, holy shit, this is one of the greatest things that I've ever seen in my life. So imagine how it felt when we saw it in 2004 for the first time. Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, one of the best villain portrayals of all time. I mean, Spider-Man 2, it's the tits. It's the tits. And if you're the tits, you make it into the top 3 on this list. Alright, we are down to the final 2. These 2 flip-flop places every so often, but I think I've got them in the order that I need them to be. Number 2, I have Man of Steel, which in my humble opinion is the best solo Superman film ever made. You guys know I'm a huge Superman fan. Obviously, I wear the Superman hat all the time. I'm wearing a Superman shirt. I have on a Superman cape. I am the Superman fanboy. This is the kind of Superman film that this Superman fanboy had always wanted to see. I always wanted to see a live-action portrayal of Superman that took took his character, took his origin, took his story seriously. And this movie did. This movie actually asks the question of what would happen if Superman actually popped up in real life. How would people react to him? Would we trust him? Would we hate him? Would we fear him? Would we love him? And how would Superman feel about all that? What would Superman feel like growing up on a planet where he's kind of isolated and alone? Some of you may not know this, but this is one of the biggest reasons why I became a Superman fan in the first place, because of that feeling of isolation that I felt when my parents got divorced when I was a kid. This has the most badass action sequences that you have ever seen in live action for Superman, ever. I challenge you to find me better live action Superman action sequences. This film also has a lot of great themes and ideas about Superman being in our real world, and it carries them over into the next film, Batman v Superman, and helps formulate the plot and the characters of that movie. Again, you can't deny its impact. Man of Steel, it converted actually a lot of people into Superman fans, and Man of Steel is number 2 on my list. Ta-da! We finally have a number 1, and I'm pretty sure if you haven't seen it by now, you knew it was going to be number 1 on this list. As soon as it didn't pop up at number 2, you're like, oh, okay, I know exactly what Hannibal's number 1 is. Number 1 is Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. I have never been the guy in my short movie reviewing career that goes for the popular thing or goes for, what's easiest. I don't really care about who likes what as it relates to movies. It doesn't really help formulate my opinion. I don't really care about who hates something or who doesn't. It doesn't really matter to me. It's all subjective opinion. My subjective opinion, Batman v Superman is... well, it's my favorite, obviously. It's my favorite comic book film of all time. I love this movie so much because this movie actually got inside my head. This is a comic book film that actually made me think about shit. This is a film that got inside my heart, and it took my 2 favorite superheroes in the world, Batman and Superman, and probably my 3rd or 4th favorite superhero ever in Wonder Woman, and it kind of deconstructed them and broke down their characters so that we could build them up for the future. That's precisely why I love Batman v Superman so much, because it took characters that we love and it did something different with them, and it took them in new directions that we hadn't seen portrayed in live action before. It has such a great score, it has such great performances, it has such great comic book iconography. So many scenes in this movie feel like they were ripped right out of the pages of a comic book. And it's controversial, I understand it's divisive, I get all that. I just don't give a damn. Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice is one of those comic book films that I'm going to remember for a very long time. I don't care how old I get, I will constantly find new things to appreciate about it. And there you go, people. That is my list. Those are my top 10 favorite comic book films of all time. Comment below, let me know what your list is, and let me know how much of an idiot I am if that's really how you feel about it. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace!